So what's going on with you?
Just, trying to stay COVID free.
Fun. Nice shirt. I just realized that. You stole it back from your daughter?
Yeah.
Nice.
It was laundry day and she's not here today, so.
So the process of this is essentially, just open dialogue, and I just think that you're somebody that can talk about this stuff openly. What for you has been the biggest barrier in music mentally?
Mentally, a lot of self-doubt over the years, and basically that, thinking nobody wants to hear your ideas, nobody wants to, what you're doing is nowhere as good as it should or has to be, and just a lot of stuff like that.
It's great that you've chosen the kind of music that you make too, because it's all about being who you are no matter what, to a degree, right? Just laying it all out there.
Yeah, you reach a point where you go for it, I guess, and I think everybody should just go for it, but not let yourself get down about anything. If things don't pan out for you, you took your shot. Whatever, there's enough courage you should be proud of in that. And I think you'll be surprised that a lot of people think what you're doing is cool,
And there's no accounting for it either, right? It's I could think that these people are going to love me, and they could think that it's total shit. Yet somebody that I never intended to connect with really does, and I feel like that's kind of beautiful and weird.
I've even gotten to the point sometimes where I'll have song ideas or something, and I would, I'll take them to a rehearsal, and in my head I'm thinking I'm singing like crap, these guys are not into this idea, with my own bandmates, and you can get in your own head like that and psych yourself out. I've done that I don't know how many times, and at the end of the day they're like, man, it's a great idea, let's roll with that or whatever, and I'm like, oh, okay.
I think that's also a thing too, right? If you're in the right band with the right people and you feel supported, that's what it should be. That's what a band to me should be anyway. These are people that you're creating with, that you you're sharing, maybe something that's not 100% yet in your brain or whatever, and you need them to be able to understand you, or at least try to, respectfully.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been in situations where you weren't comfortable, or where you wish things could have been different?
Yeah, for sure. There's been times where, even just at a show, I didn't do something that I I should have done this, or I should have went and talked to this person, or, I've lost some friends over this stuff, not anything bitter or anything, hatred or anything like that, but just different views, and different things of patience and drive and trust, basically, things like that. I look back and I think maybe I could have done this differently or done that differently, but then I can also see no, maybe it probably wouldn't have made a difference. Some people are just the way they are, and it's not up to you to change them, right? It's just up to you to do what you're gonna do, and it works, doesn't, see ya.
Yeah, I think that it takes a lot of I think it takes some back and forth, trying different things to figure that out too, or not. I feel like sometimes it just so happens to be the right situation the first time around, and that's lucky. But most creative people that I've talked to are I had to redo songs, or I had to, switch out so many different members to get it right. We're happy with what they created. How do you feel about labels in this industry? Labels, people labeling your kind of music to a certain genre or anything like that?
doesn't really bother me. Like, I think labels are more for the people doing the labeling than, like the subjects they're labeling. Like, if let's say you come see us and you're like, man, that was a great punk band. Great. But if someone else comes in and they're like, man, those guys are like grunge rock from the 90s, whatever. Like, we've been called a million different things, and the outcome's always the same. It's never really anything negative, like, I think you got to take that stuff with a grain of salt, right? Like, it's not anything that it's music. You're making music. Everybody has their influences. Everybody has their whatever, and you're going to collaborate with the people in your band, or if you're collaborating with someone in another band or whatever, and those influences are going to shine through, and you're just going to see whatever it is, right? And the sound of it, and yeah, that's what I think, the labels.
Nice. Well, I think that's always I get like weirdly insecure about calling myself one thing, just right. Because to somebody else, like, I might be misrepresenting myself or whatever. Yeah. So, right. And so I think that's something that I think especially new artists or new people to this kind of get like stuck in, where they're like, who am I? What am I actually doing? And how is it actually being read to people? Yeah. So, and like, even the processes of like, grant writing and, getting funding, is like, people want you to be able to name what you do and who you are. And it's a weird one, because being able to say who you are is something that doesn't always lend to like the way you sound.
True. And like, another example too is being that half our band is Indigenous. So you get labeled, or, you label yourself or whatever, you get, are you an Indigenous band? Well, like, we're some Indigenous guys that are in a band and we play music, like, and then there's this Indigenous artist group or category or whatever that kind of like frowns upon you for not singing about the creator and Eagles and your dream, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm just thinking about rock and roll. I'm singing about my life, but I just happen to be Indigenous. So it's like, in one aspect, you don't fit in with, you don't get lumped in with the rock bands, because it's like, oh, that's an Indigenous artist. But then you don't get it lumped in with the Indigenous artists, because they're not singing about anything Indigenous. It's like, well, then what the hell, people?
Right, because it really doesn't take away from who you are, right? It's like, it's that weird one, right? You're like, I'm still Indigenous. Like, I should be in the category of Indigenous artists, whether I'm talking about, ceremony or not, whether I'm speaking, like, it's still my truth, and it's still something that an Indigenous person is experiencing. So why the fuck? I can relate to that. I can only speak for myself, right? So for me, it's like, I'm super proud of my identity and like who I am, and I think it comes through in my music. I talk about the things that affect me, and that I feel like that's what music should be. And I hate the fact that, like, just because I'm an Indigenous artist or whatever, that like there's that expectation of like, I hate to use the term, but like that tokenizing thing, where it's like, well, this Indigenous artist is going to come like sing some Indigenous music for us.
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's Indigenous because I'm Indigenous. This is what makes this Native, is that like, I happen to be Native, and these happen to be my experiences.
Just look at me as an artist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an interesting, like, I think life in itself paradoxes itself, like, just all the time, because I mean, like, I'm a contradiction just existing, so but I'm here and it's a reality, so what do we do with that? You know? And like, that's what art is. Has that ever limited you or pushed you in any direction that like wasn't maybe where you wanted to go?
Several times in several different ways. With my band, the Bloodshots, for 5 years now, I've bust my ass getting us where we are and getting everything done for us. Like I book, I manage, I write, all of it. And there was this just in the Winnipeg scene, there was some punk bands that we played shows with or whatever, and word gets around in the scene and in your community and stuff. And I had ended up getting us, I think, in a year span, we played shows with Danko Jones, Buck Cherry, and somebody else. And all those bands that were, like our peers and our friends at that time, well, I would find out things like one guy said, that the only reason that band gets anywhere is because they get Indian money. And they get all these big shows because they get Indian support and funding and stuff. And that came back to me like maybe a year later, and I was like, what? Like, what kind of like pathetic person are you to talk to me to my face like you're my bro, you're my whatever, and then behind my back you say stuff like that? I mean, if you don't think my band is good enough to get these opportunities, whatever, that's fine. Your opinion, cool. But don't assume something like that, because that's the only way you could get that kind of information, is assuming it, because there's never been any inkling of whatever at it, right? We got nominated for a music award for Album of the Year at the Indigenous Music Awards. And same thing, got a lot of flack about that, because it was people just, I don't know, their opinions on it was just like we're never deserving of the things we get or something, you know what I mean? And it's like, well, whatever. But I've also had it where we've played shows or showcases where Indigenous artists and Indigenous music is showcased, and we've had those artists also think like, who are these punks? Like they're not wearing regalia or saying a prayer before they play and stuff. It's like, well, that's not us.
Yeah.
It's just things like that can sour relationships and whatever. To this day, I see that guy around and I just kind of ignore him, because I'm like, that's a problem with you, not a problem with me, buddy. So
I feel like that's like a thing in, at least my experience with a lot of my peers in the music scene, but also just as Indigenous artists. It's insane. Like it's coming from you. You're making it. You put in the time. You rehearsed. You did all the things. Don't be upset at me, because I did work to get support for funding, and I like wrote grants explaining my situation. Like it's set up for a reason this way.
Yeah.
But not this undeserving thing that I find.
I've also had, like, I have some friends that are in like pretty popular Canadian bands, and I know that they've even dealt with it on the level of like anything Indigenous, but they got a factor grant or whatever, right? And it's right. Like people will complain about people even getting factor grants, like, oh, you need help from the government, it's like, what? Why does that make you upset? It's a problem that I think a lot of society has right now, and it just goes back to mind your own damn business, do your own thing,
just fucking support people. It's not that fucking like hard. If you see somebody that's working their ass off, just
don't be jealous. Go work your ass off too.
Yeah. Go, like, if anything, look at that and be like, why do I feel that way? And then like do the work, or do the thing that makes you, insecure.
Exactly.
Be able to turn that into something positive. I think it's not honest of me to say like, oh, you know what? I've never felt jealous of any artist or any musician out there. It's just not the case. I'm a human being and I feel things. But
exactly. It's emotion, feeling. You just got to learn how to deal with it in a positive way, not in a negative way to them or yourself.
Yeah, and I think that if you're feeling it, it's because they're doing something that you have a feeling that you maybe want to do or that you could do that you're not pushing yourself to do.
I used to be a lot more self-conscious and insecure of things. And then, I swear there was a moment where I just stopped caring. I just was like, fuck, whatever. I'm going to do what I'm doing. If you don't like it, whatever. I don't give a shit.
I think that this industry kind of makes you like that to a degree. I think you get like beat up a lot in this one, or you hear no a lot. You get a lot of rejection. I think you get used to like kind of like being like, okay, but like let me try it later. Like, okay, I'll try again. And like having to always step up. I think it kind of gets you to that point where eventually you're just like, I do what I do, and either you like it or we move on, and that's life. Do you feel better about guitar playing or singing?
Feel more at home playing guitar. I've been in bands before, and I've always just played guitar in them. And kind of while I was in those bands, had the ideas that I have that became Bloodshots songs. And when it's your idea and you're whatever, you're singing it in your head, or you're writing down the lyrics and the melodies and you're singing it. And when we started off, I was the worst singer. I was so bad. And, I did go see a vocal coach here and there for some stuff. And it's simple things that you learn. You're like, okay, it's to a point, anybody can sing, it's just getting out there and doing it. And now I feel comfortable doing both. With the band, we've added another member in the last, I want to say 2 years, and he plays lead guitar, so I've been putting the guitar down a lot more when we play, which is like so weird for me. So it's like I don't know what to do with my hands. I'm like holding the mic. It took me a while to like get comfortable doing that and not just be standing there. And I realized, like, man, when I'm playing a guitar, I'm walking over there on the stage. I'm going over there. I'm like out at the crowd and everything. I got to get out of my own head doing this and just take the mic over there and do. So now it is as it is. I'm comfortable doing both. Yeah. So it just works out over time. You got to work out the kinks.
You got to, I think, just work through it. Right. It's like, I have this image of the fact that I'm going to be a lead without a guitar for a little bit. So now I have to figure out how I'm going to actually do that. And it takes doing that to do it, right? Like something can be an idea, but you got to just fucking push through that shit. Maybe one day I'll get there. Is there ever a time where like financially you're not, well, I'm sure that there is, you're a musician, but you're not financially where you can support the quality of music that you want to put out?
Yeah, 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Everything that you want to do with your music or whatever takes the sad truth of it is, it takes money, and nobody's out there discovering, the next Van Halen or the next Green Day, in a bar anymore. And you're going to need money. You're going to have to, put it in every facet of what you're doing, because that's just the way it works now, and sure, funding's out there and stuff, but man, it's tough to get. It's not easy, There's a lot of people going for it, and sometimes you don't submit for it right, or you don't fill out like grants in. You don't know what you're doing. You got to build up the cash. You got to play a bunch of shows. Then let's say you want to go record. You got to fundraise. 100% of the time I always feel like there's not enough money to get where we want to be. So that's why things take time, right? You got to build it up.
You kind of said the industry is changing. Like it's changed a lot. Like it used to be that you would, you'd take your band, you'd rehearse like crazy, you'd start to build a following, and then either you get signed or you would, even end up with some kind of team that helps develop that. And but now it's like, do it yourself and see if somebody gives a shit.
Yeah.
And not all of us are great at grant writing or could hire a grant writer or whatever, right? And I think that can hold back people that are probably just as deserving and actually really capable of using that funding to something important. So it's a tough one. It's definitely tough. What do you do outside of music? Like for work?
So, I work at a high school. I'm a educational assistant at a high school. So, with all the stuff going on right now, I'm laid off. Do there, and I also work at a care facility for young adults with autism. I've done that for years now.
Do you find that informs your music at all? And what you create, and or who you are and how you perceive what you create in any way? Or is it just like very separate?
Yeah, it's just what I do to make money. It's a job. It's a job. That's why they got to pay you to do it.
Yeah. I think that like everything that you do can kind of give you different perspective, right? Like it's like, if you're working at Walmart, you're probably going to have a different perspective, maybe, versus working in education and working with teenagers and kids. Like I couldn't imagine,
Yeah, for sure. In that aspect, like you're going to have a different outlook if you're driving a cab or if you're, making sure suicidal kids don't kill themselves.
Right. Like I'm just, I think it's a really hard, well, it sounds like a hard job, and it also sounds like a kind of rewarding one. So I kind of also just wanted to shed light on the fact that I think you're super cool. A well-rounded human being, we don't always get to see that.
Yeah, no, that's true. Okay. Well, thanks.
Well, no, it's true. It's true though. Like people, you put out music and you're like, rock and roll and like shit, and then, but like people don't always see the person behind that doing, some of the work that is societal and important.
Like that guy looks like an asshole.
Right.
Oh, you actually not bad.
Which is a thing in rock music, we all want, everyone thinks we're assholes, and actually we're just sad empaths.
Yeah, really though.
Fuck. Too real. You have experienced with like insecurity that you think is important to share with like a newer artist, me even, or advice, criticism.
Even if you don't believe in yourself, just make a go of it. Whatever it is, if you like to draw, if you like to sing, if you like to, jog, whatever, like you see people post on Instagram or whatever, like, oh, this is my run I did today. And then you hear people say, like, nobody cares about your fucking run. It's like, you know what? That person cares. So, maybe maybe you don't care, but there's some other people out there that are like, oh, you know what, maybe I'll try those trails, or maybe I'll whatever, you know. Just do what you want to do. Go for it, because not everybody's going to approve and not everybody's going to like it, but they don't have to. Just you do what you're doing for you, and know that there are people out there that feel the same and want you to be doing what you're doing for them. That's what I think. I've had people come up to me at shows after and like say, man, your music got me through some hard times, or this song that you wrote really got through to me, and you know, I felt it because I was going through some stuff. And that was super weird to me, right? Because it's like, okay, cool, you know, and you want to try to not be negative or like, you know, disrespectful, but you don't expect that. But so it's flattering, and I'm super weird about compliments and stuff like that. I get like change the subject really quick, and but yeah, just everybody's a little bit self-conscious. Everybody is not as confident as you think they are. They're just going for it. So buckle down and go for it.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let anybody fucking get in the way of that either. Don't, you know, yeah. Like you can trust somebody so heavily. I think that's also one thing I want to say about that. You can trust somebody so much in this world of creation and stuff, and they can still be wrong.
Yeah.
You know, like you can ask for other people's opinions, and that is, you know, it's great. Feedback is awesome. But for what you're doing, you have to be able to go like, actually, in my gut, I think you're wrong. And I'm going to, if you get that gut feeling, that's it. Like, that's what I genuinely believe. It's like a gut feeling. It could have been that, but you have to make the decision and stand by it and just pursue it.
Examples of the other side of it where, you know, some people will take positive feedback and it just makes their head, you know, and that kind of thing will turn you against your peers, will turn you against, you know, whatever you're doing, because one thing you got to remember is that to your face, a lot of people aren't going to tell you the truth. You know what I mean? If what you're doing touched somebody, then sure, you know, but some people will just, that was amazing, that was great, that was whatever. Stay humble. Let those things, okay, cool, thanks, you know, that's great. But yeah, stay humble, be modest, but be proud of you.
That exists, where it's like, there's that fear of like coming across like a dick if you like enjoy your music.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, it's like, I literally always think it could be better.
Mm-hmm.
I could have been more in touch with the feeling, or I could have been just better, more on pitch, or just sound fucking better. I'm probably harder on myself than any person that's judging me could ever be. And I think that can be freeing.
I think 90% of artists out there are that write their own stuff and whatever feel that way, you know. We are our own worst critics, and some things that you know, it may never be exactly how you want it, because maybe it'll never be able to get there. You just, you know, half the time we've been in you know, in the studio, and I'm like, no, it needs something else, it needs this or it needs that, and then I give it a day or something, I listen to it, and I'm like, fuck no, like it's actually pretty good as it is, you know. It's just, you gotta just trust yourself, which is sometimes hard too.
Right. Yeah, I don't generally, which is an issue. Like I'm working on that, but yeah, you know, that's a really good point. I've seen myself fuck up mixes heavily because I'm like, but like I just want a little more of this on there, when it was like fine. And like other people will listen to it and be like, what the fuck are you talking about, you crazy fucker?
Yeah, your average music listener isn't going to notice those little tiny, adjustments that you had to make. They're just listening to the song.
I'll beat myself up over like a weird like flicker in my voice, and then I'll get like a message later once it's been out for a little bit, and it's like, oh my god, I loved how emotional you were and stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay. I guess I'm crazy. Like, crying, so like, that's okay. That's fine. I can let that one go now. I don't know. It's a crapshoot. Just fucking go for it and hope that shit works out. Like, and try as hard as you need to try for your own career, and push yourself.
Worst case scenario, at least you had a great hobby for a long time,
Yeah. I really enjoy freaking Hot. It's fun.
Oh, yeah, we had a lot of fun writing and recording now, and we actually recorded it out there in Toronto.
Oh yeah.
And we actually do a lot of our recording out there.
Why is that?
We had a buddy that was, I guess he was interning at a studio, and then he ended up getting a job there years ago when we were cutting our first EP, and we just kind of were talking through social media with him about, we started this new band and we got these ideas and everything. He's like, man, you guys should fly out here and do it. Like, I'll get you a good deal. I'll work on the project with you guys. You'll have like something sounding amazing. So we went for it, and ended up being a great idea. We loved it. So yeah, we've gone back a few times now, and done some recording. That single was kind of a one-off to tie over to the next album, which we're going to have out in the next, I don't know, 1 to 8 months, as we're actually contractually obligated now. But we've been working hard on that too, and we got a lot of big plans for it. So
yeah. That's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I know you're working with the same person for the album?
No, actually, we're going to be working with a few different people this time. Nothing against where we were or whatever, but I also think it's important for you to get out there and find a lot of people that you can, comfortably collaborate with. And some studios you feel comfortable in and some you don't, and sometimes you need somebody that's, don't be scared of someone has more of a producer mentality, and you'll have to be open to comments like that was no good, or cut that part out, we're going to do this instead. You got to be able to be willing to have your song kind of chopped up sometimes, because they have your best interests in mind, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, I think that's the thing too. It's like, it's that gut feeling, right? It's and also like you walk into those positions generally asking for that as well. Like when you're actually asking for it, like it's like usually pretty a healthy like balance of that. But also it's like, you asked to be there, you wanted to be there, and if you don't relinquish into that experience, you're not giving everything of yourself. Actually, you're limiting what something could be. And at the end of it, if you decide that it didn't work, you don't have to fucking generally release it. So as an artist, right? Like, so it's like, okay, we did that. It was an experience. There's money gone, which sucks. But if its artistry isn't what you're envisioning, then you got to look at that too. I think within like the first day, generally, if you're working with somebody like that, if you're on the same shit.
Yeah.
Like if you can work directly with those people. I haven't had that experience yet where it's like the best recording experience ever. I've had fun with friends. But, you know, I think that will come with time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool that you're like wanting to branch out and try something new, and it's a new piece of work. So it might need a fresh ear.
Exactly, yeah.
Never be afraid of a new perspective. Might teach you something.
Trust the process.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, thank you. I wish you all the best with Bloodshots, and you know, you just keep fucking stepping it up. So I can't wait for this album. I didn't.
This year, like I said, on through Golden Robot Records. They're a label based in Australia that we signed with, and for now, people can check out our old stuff on YouTube. Look up the Bloodshots Winnipeg. And yeah, right now the only song we have available streaming is Hot, but you can get it anywhere you want to stream. So check us out. Instagram, Bloodshots204. Facebook, same thing. And
that will
hopefully
all be in the description as well of the video. So yeah.
Hopefully we'll be able to tour and come back out that way sometime. The way it's looking, it won't be till like 2021 maybe, but who knows? This thing could go away, flare up again.
You better call me when you do.
We will.
When you do come out, we gotta grab a beer and like hang out properly.
We'll hit the chainsaw.
Chainsaw is closed.
Oh Lord, that place was great.
So sad. Wow. But yes, we will grab a beer and it'll be great. That was so bad.
We'll all do a shot. We'll all do it.
Okay, perfect. I'm honestly not drinking that much these days because it's been really good for my mental health. You know, I'm not a huge fan of it.
Me neither. One or two here or there, but you know,
no, it's fun. It can be fun, but it can also it's like poisoning. It feels like poisoning.
I've also had my daughter a lot with me since this whole pandemic thing, so I don't drink when I have her. So, and I mean I don't drink to excess, anyways. But you know.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for doing it. You're the best.
Thanks for having me. I wish you the best.
Oh.